Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Idlepark Talkshow. The past few weeks have seen a severe information overload surrounding the United States and Iran war. While the situation in the Gulf has been and continues to be the biggest story in the world today, there are a few other important developments that deserve your attention. Today, I want to take a few minutes to briefly highlight one major world event that may have been overshadowed by the constant stream of news coming out from the Strait of Hormuz. The 36th NATO Summit, which is currently taking place in Ankara, Turkey, brings together leaders from the alliance's 32 member states, along with representatives from 11 invited non-NATO countries. The North Atlantic Treaty Organization is made up of 30 European countries and 2 North American nations, Canada and the United States precisely. NATO's mission is to safeguard the freedom and security of all its members through both political and military means. It pursues this mission through 3 core principles: collective defense, crisis management, and cooperative security. Over the years, NATO countries have participated in numerous military interventions around the world, many of them led by the United States. These include interventions in Bosnia and Herzegovina, Afghanistan, Iraq, Somalia, and Libya. You can go back and review these conflicts for yourself and make your own judgment on how successful NATO has been in these military campaigns and whether it has truly been a force for peace and stability in the world. Many countries have questioned NATO's relevance and continued existence following the collapse of the Soviet Union. They argue that in an effort to remain relevant, the organization has gradually transitioned from being primarily a defensive alliance into one that has increasingly taken upon offensive military operations. The primary agenda for July 2026 NATO Summit centers around 3 core principles: defense spending and burden sharing, defense industrial production and supply chains, and a continued support for Ukraine. At last year's NATO Summit in the Netherlands, member states committed to increasing defense spending to 5% of their gross domestic product. President Donald J. Trump was the driving force behind that decision. He argued that many NATO members were not contributing enough to their own defense, and that the United States was carrying far too much of the financial burden. He called on every member state to increase defense spending from the previous 2% target to 5% of their gross domestic product. This year's summit provides leaders with an opportunity to review progress on the historic commitment, while also encouraging European allies to assume greater responsibility for the continent's security. So how have NATO members performed so far? Latvia is currently leading the alliance, allocating an estimated 5.33% of its gross domestic product to core defense. Estonia follows with an approximately 5.1%. Latvia is spending 4.92%. Poland stands at 4.68%. Greece is spending 3.65% of its gross domestic product on defense. The United States is currently spending 3.17% of its gross domestic product on defense. Germany is spending 2.69%. The United Kingdom allocates 2.56%, while France is spending 2.22% of its gross domestic product on defense. Despite this year's commitment, only 2 of NATO's 32 member states have actually crossed the 5% threshold. Most members remain below the agreed upon target, which is, of course, the 5%. The ongoing Russian-Ukraine war has also exposed another major weakness within the alliance. All 32 nation countries have struggled to supply Ukraine with the ammunition, missiles, and military equipment it needs to sustain the war effort. In many respects, Russia has outperformed NATO alliance in terms of military industrial production. Russia currently produces 3 to 4 times more artillery shells annually than all of NATO countries combined. Russia also maintains a significant advantage in the mass production of conventional munitions. Russia manufactures an estimated 2.5 to 3 million artillery shells every year, roughly 3 times the combined production capacity of the United States and Europe put together. Russia's production costs are also significantly lower, allowing Russia to manufacture artillery rounds at only a fraction of what it costs NATO producers. Russia currently produces approximately 280 advanced T-90M tanks each year, while simultaneously refurbishing large numbers of older armored vehicles from storage. The country has also dramatically expanded drone production, with Russia now capable of producing thousands of drones every single day. Moscow plans to manufacture more than 7.3 million first-person view drones and 7.8 million warheads during 2026, while also producing over 5,000 long-range attack drones every month. Because NATO's defense industries have struggled to keep pace, we have seen a gradual reduction in military assistance reaching Ukraine. While no NATO country has completely ended military support for Ukraine, several allies have suspended transfer of certain weapons from their military stockpile because those reserves have become dangerously depleted or because domestic political priorities have shifted. Individual NATO members have also begun restructuring their military aid program for national reasons. This is precisely why the NATO Summit Defense Industry Forum is introducing new initiatives designed to streamline procurement, expand manufacturing capacity, protect critical supply chain, and strengthen transatlantic defense industrial cooperation. Support for Ukraine remains another central priority for NATO. The alliance is working to secure long-term suitable military assistance and strengthen Ukraine's air defense capabilities. Going forward, much of this effort will increasingly be funded and managed by European members. Since Russia launched its military operation in February 2022, NATO and its European allies have provided extensive military and financial assistance to Ukraine. This includes lethal military aid such as air defense systems, artillery, ammunition, drones, tanks, and fighter aircraft. NATO has also provided extensive training and logistical support. NATO Security Assistance and Training for Ukraine program coordinates equipment donation while training Ukrainian forces across several allied countries, operating from hubs in Germany and along NATO's eastern flank. The alliance has also pledged more than $1.4 billion in non-lethal assistance, including body armor, fuel, demining equipment, medical supplies, and secure communication equipment. However, over the past year, enthusiasm for supporting Ukraine has noticeably declined. This may be due to the prolonged nature of the conflict, growing war fatigue among NATO governments and their population, reduced media attention with the coming up of the Iran US war, the worsening economic hardship, particularly across Europe, the economic consequences of the unprecedented sanctions on Russia, sanctions that have in many ways rebounded against European economies, America's strategic pivot towards China, and now the growing geopolitical impact of the US Iran war. These developments have prompted countries such as Bulgaria and Poland to hold additional transfer of weapons and ammunition from their own military reserves after already contributing heavily, as both countries focus on large-scale military modernization. The United States has also experienced supply constraint. The depletion of key stockpile caused by multiple global conflicts and growing demand for advanced missile systems has occasionally disrupted deliveries and created shortfalls in promised air defense systems for Ukraine. In addition, a proposal by NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte requiring member states to dedicate 0.25% of their gross domestic product annually to Ukraine was blocked by the United Kingdom, France, Spain, Italy, and Canada. Countries such as Italy have strongly opposed embedding long-term mandatory spending commitments into formal NATO agreements. Despite these disagreements and localized reduction in aid, the alliance as a whole continues to support Ukraine. European allies and Canada have increased their contributions in an effort to offset changing US policies. This July 2026 NATO Summit comes at a particularly difficult moment for Ukraine. Russian forces continue making slow but steady advances into eastern Ukrainian territories. They are pushing deeper into the Donetsk region and have claimed control of the Konstantinivka, one of Ukraine's key defensive strongholds. At the same time, Russia continues launching massive area attacks on Ukrainian cities such as Kiev and Sumy, while Ukraine has intensified long-range drone strikes targeting Russian oil refineries. This war of attrition has entered its fourth year, and unfortunately, there appears to be no end in sight. Despite the strong public display of unity at this NATO summit, significant disagreements remain within the alliance over defensive spending, burden sharing, military readiness, and America's long-standing belief that its NATO allies or European allies are still not doing enough to safeguard their own security. These These disagreements were once again made clear today during President Donald Trump's joint press conference with President of Turkey. Let's take a look.
Are further troop drawdowns in Europe likely? And are you satisfied with the progress that NATO allies have made?
Well, we're going to see. I was very disappointed with NATO. And frankly, if it weren't held in Turkey, where my friend happens to be a very strong leader, a very strong person, it's possible that I wouldn't have attended. I felt I had to attend because of the fact that, I know he's gone all out. It was a big thing to have NATO come to Turkey or any place else. It's a big thing.
So here we can see Donald Trump explaining the reasons why he even made it to this NATO summit. He is expressing that the reason why he is in Ankara, Turkey, or attending this NATO summit is because of his personal relationship with Erdogan. So, in his opinion, he is attending the summit in honor of a very good friend who is president of Turkey and who had invited him and requested that Donald Trump be present. And again, the only reason why Donald Trump might not have wanted to, or one of the many reasons why he might not have wanted to attend this NATO summit was because, again, I think Donald Trump has been one of those who have called NATO irrelevant or outdated. He does not believe that NATO is a relevant organization. Again, he has presented a lot of arguments against NATO's existence. He has kind of questioned why NATO continues to exist. He considers NATO and the European allies as weak, sometimes incompetent. He said that very clearly, and it's no news even to NATO that Donald Trump isn't a fan, and they've been conversations about whether or not the United States under Donald Trump would walk away from NATO, and what that would do if the United States had to withdraw their membership from NATO. To continue, Donald Trump would go further to explain why he continues to be frustrated with NATO European allies.
But we weren't treated well because we did something in Iran. We don't need anybody's help. I didn't even want their help. But before I asked, they said they wouldn't be there. And we've invested trillions of dollars in NATO. Why? To protect European countries and others, Canada, etc., but to protect people, countries from, generally speaking, it used to be the Soviet Union, now it's Russia.
So, just to be clear, Donald Trump has been one of those who have he's been very consistent on this message that for reasons that he cannot explain, it seems that the United States has carried a significant financial cost of NATO. America is spending more than their NATO allies. They are also playing a leadership role in NATO. And recently, when the United States and Israel attacked Iran, and the Strait of Hormuz was blockaded by Iran, the United States did call on NATO allies, France, Spain, Germany, Britain. They call on them for assistance. Now he says he didn't need them. He was just, I guess, testing to see how dependable, how reliable NATO can be, and their refusal to come to his aid. They refused to join in the war. He called all NATO states refused to join in. They refused to help open the Strait of Hormuz after Iran had shot it down. France would not join. Britain would not join. Germany would not join. So kind of left Trump isolated and holding the bag for Iran. Usually America goes out like they did in Iraq and in Afghanistan, of course, convince their NATO allies to join them in the war, and they would all go and fight. America will lead, of course, but they would all take the responsibility. Victory, of course, would be an American victory, and the NATO allies and anyone who joins is secondary, right? So this time around, United States did decide to attack Iran, did not consult their NATO allies, did not solicit help at the onset of the war, of course, assuming that it was just going to be a short war. Within the weekend, within the week, they would decapitate the leadership, they would kill senior military leaders. The Iranian people would, rise up in arms, they would overthrow the government, and that would be done in a few days. However, when this war got prolonged, weeks and turning into months, and Iran decided to close the Strait of Hormuz, America now turned around and started pleading. I would say plead and beg. Donald Trump doesn't seem like he was pleading and begging, but I get a feeling that is what he was doing, pleading and begging on these NATO allies to join in their operation in Iran, which they all denied. So, of course, Donald Trump is very angry about that. angry that the NATO states did not join them in their intervention or operations in Iran. So Donald Trump continues to explain why he remains frustrated with his NATO allies.
And I say that's fine, but you would think that they'd be very willing to do something to help us, and they really weren't. In the case of the United Kingdom, the Prime Minister, I guess he's no longer there, maybe because of this. It was a very unpopular thing he did. He said, "No, we'll help after the war is over." I said, I don't need that kind of help. We didn't need any help at all. And in a way, I was testing people. I was testing to see whether or not they'd be there, because I've long said that we help them, but I'm not sure that they'd be there for us. And Italy turned us down, and Germany turned us down, and France turned us down. And it's okay. But, you know, why are we spending hundreds of billions of dollars and they're not there for us? We've always been there for them.
Trump is obviously clearly upset with their NATO allies, and especially there are a few key NATO ally members: United States, Germany, Italy, France, UK, Spain, and Donald Trump was clearly upset that this big five NATO members would not come to their rescue or would not come to support them during their war with Iran. The United Kingdom, for example, Keir Starmer, who is no longer a Prime Minister of UK, told Donald Trump that they could only join or support the United States after the war. I think President Macron of France also made the similar comment, saying that they could come to support the cleanup, the mining, and things like that. So we would only get involved after the war. They claimed it was America's war, so America had to deal with it, clean up their mess. Same thing, Italy too, who is obviously a NATO ally, a NATO member, and a strong friend to the United States, also declined from joining the war. So we can clearly see that despite the show of unity on stage and in public, behind the scene there are significant disagreements amongst these members, again in terms of military spending. Are these countries viable enough to spend 5% of their gross domestic product on defense? Do they have that kind of money with the global I would say depression that is coming? Do they have that kind of money? Why would they commit 5% of their gross domestic product on defense? Who are they defending themselves from? The Soviet Union ended several years ago. Russia is there, no doubt, but Russia hasn't really made any significant steps to indicate that they would ever attack a NATO state. And of course, the one of the reasons they cited for their operations in Ukraine was because Ukraine was insisting that he was going to join NATO. So this NATO expansion is something that that a lot of people have criticized and continue to criticize. And again, like I said, they come out and they show unity and strength, but again, behind the scene, these members are divided. America continues to think that they're carrying a significant amount of the financial costs for NATO, paying for European protection, which to of course to America is unfair, because again, this is money that they can use to improve healthcare, medical conditions, deal with the addictions and the dilapidating infrastructures in the US, right? But they're spending this money on European security. So Donald Trump isn't exactly happy. So continues to call on the European allies to kind of step up, spend more money. But in effect, man, these states do not have that kind of money. Um, with the sanctions that they put on Russia, which of course backfired and affected them. Take Germany, for example, dishing cheap Russian oil that supported uh, their industries and buying more expensive LNG from the United States. Again, this dynamics, this extra cost has depleted the German economy and has destroyed their industrial capabilities. Now Germany seems to be what you might call the sick man of Europe. Always, sick man of Europe. They are not doing doing that well economically. So yes, I just kind of wanted to take a few minutes to talk a little bit about NATO, because like I said, everything, most news you hear now is around what is going on in the Strait of Hormuz. There's a lot of news coming out of there, and so I kind of wanted to take some time to talk about something else that was happening that I kind of felt was important for you to follow up on. Today was just day one of the NATO summit, and day two would be July 8th, and that would be day two. And of course, we are going to watch out for any joint statements that come out from that summit. Again, talking about the existential crisis within NATO and whether or not NATO will survive the next couple of years. Well, thank you very much for listening and for inviting us to your homes. If you did enjoy this content, this show, please like and subscribe to this channel, and please share our content to your friends and those who you believe might be interested in this show as well. Thank you very much for taking the time, and we will see you again soon.